So now the last one, compliance. The compliance is to avoid breaches of any law, statutory regulations, or contractual obligations, and of any security requirements. So compliance technically is a broad subject, and often in big organizations, compliance often are not part of security. Compliance mostly is with legal. The challenge today is that compliance actually are uh, you know span across not just legal. Technically, they are a lot of contract obligations, so regulations, law, and so on. So that's why traditionally compliance with legal, because they would understand what are being applicable to the company. But more and more now with modern business, so even security, any data breaches, it's not law, but then data breaches are something on compliance as well, and sometimes it's industry standard as well. So information security has to work closely with the legal team or the compliance team. So this particular ISO standard for 27002 talk about the design and operation, use and manage information system may be subject to statutory. So we're talking about outside of legal realm, we're talking about any information systems that come under law. So an example would be, depending on which industry that you're in. If you're in banking, the Banking Act will apply to you. If you're in healthcare, as I mentioned, the Personal Health Information Protection Act will apply to you. And if you are in other customer service and industry that actually collect personal information from individual customers, like a SIN number sometimes, or maybe driver's license and identification, then you come under the PIPEDA law, which is the federal privacy law. So in terms of building a computer system, like in business applications, you need to also understand the kind of compliance issue and become part of that, right? So the suggestion from ISO here is that work closely with the legal departments, get all the legal advice, work with them, not against them. And especially, I think, become challenge is that now that we had an international cross-border business model, information will flow freely from the EU to Canada to the US, maybe to Asia and so on. The compliance issue become more complicated. Probably not this course. I think I'll talk about GDPR, which is a General Data Protection Regulations from the EU, is the new EU privacy law enacted last year, okay, which have ripple effect to all of us around the world, even though we are not part of the EU, but we may do business with the EU, we may have information received from the EU company, okay. There's also the California Privacy Act, which is again trying to follow what GDPRs are, so that we are doing business with companies over in California, we have to be careful as well. So these are all in the realm of compliance. Okay, so to wrap this one up, I want to talk about some of the successful factors for certifying for 27001. Okay, so when I say certifying for 27001, I also underline saying that in order to successfully implement 27002, either you're getting a 27001 certification, or simply just want to successfully implement 27002, these bullet point will apply to you. Okay? So what I'm talking about here is that in order to successfully implement information security in your organization, following ISO, in fact, following anything else, it applies. So all these will apply, just the desire to implement information security successfully in any organization. So you need to have not just senior management support, but visible senior management support. It's not sufficient that the board will say, yeah, so go do it, okay? But also engage the senior management, the CEO maybe, or COO, your CIO, from time to time, participate in email campaign, maybe in if you had a internal portal, employee portal, then you can have short video clip that that allow the CEO to talk a little bit about security culture in the company, awareing of data breaches or any of the security events. I mean, coming from the CEO kind of set the tone for the entire company. Okay, for employees that never meet the CEO, if they hear them through ways, email or video clip in their internal employee portal, talking about things, those things must be important. So a visible senior management support is important. Agreeable funding, okay? It's not important, it's not sufficient to have a lip service that, okay, you got the funding, but you want to have agreeable funding. The amount, get approval, and how you want to spend it, okay? Consistent with your organizational culture, when you implement information security, such as ISO 27002, beware of your corporate culture. Some work easily, some may not work easily, so you needed to, have a plan to bring people to that. So an example with the corporate culture is, you don't really like to have card control access, so everybody can come in and out and so on. If you wanted to implement them, and they don't bring the card, they'll just knock the door and people will open the door for them without knowing them. So you want to be aware of that kind of culture, the relaxed culture, and you want to change them. Okay, so that's important. Also, again, in line with your organization's business objective, that's key. I mean, you don't want to do things that are not supporting your business objective. Again, you won't get much traction from the management point of view if you're not. Understand a risk base and a need for risk management and risk assessment. I think we all acknowledged that we can't do everything all the time, so we have to prioritize. We don't have money and the resources to do everything, okay? So we have to prioritize. And the way to prioritize, the best way to prioritize is use a risk-based approach. The higher the risk, the first thing that we do. The lower the risk, we'll do it later. As simple as that. Okay? This is just kind of our life too, right? We can't do everything. Awareness and training program. That's actually very, very important. I will have a dedicated lesson to talk about that in the GRC course, the Governance Risk and Compliance course. So we'll get to that when we talk about that. Encourage feedback from all people. It's interesting if you had a big company, I'm talking about thousands of employees, you would be blindsided sometimes that, everything that I implemented is good, they have to follow, what's the problem, right? But if you get to hear from the trenches, so to speak, or from people that are everyday working, I mean, they don't really understand security, they don't have appreciation of what you appreciate. But if you can hear some feedback from them that, Michael, this really doesn't work. I mean, don't do this. Nobody's following it because this is stupid. Then you want to hear from them and you ask them, how do you think that this will work? How can I change it to make it, work better? I mean, you want to hear from them. Not all of the advice they give you is something that you must follow. But at least you wanted to know what are not successful, right? Last but not least is the effective instance management process. Sure, we try our best to, set up the policy, put in the controls, do risk management and whatnot, but bad things still happen. And if bad things happen, we want to make sure that you get to notify, right people get to be informed in a chain of command, some people making a decision to plug them, to remediate them, to collect the evidence, and to learn from them, right? So the effective instance management process is that. Data breaches, it's going to happen. I mean, I read articles that it's not whether it will happen to your company or not, it's when, okay? Attack, hack, breaches will happen. The question is, how big is the damage? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the ISECA principle of information security practice. It will not be in the same detail, but before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about ISECA. Okay, ISECA, it's a short acronym. Now, it used to be Information System Auditor and Control Association, but nowadays everybody calls them ISECA. So you ask people, they don't know what that actually means. But in any case, ISECA is an organization that are non-profit, independent. They don't belong to any vendor. They have global presence, so it's around the world. Now, all these organizations are global because they are in the business of certification. So the broader the audience, the better for them from a business point of view, exposures point of view. ISECA engage in developing and adopting globally accepted industry-leading knowledge and practice for information systems. So they are not just into information security. Okay, you might have heard of CISSP, which I will have a lesson later on. So ISECA is more than CISSP. It has certification in various capacities. Okay, but basically it is similar to ISO. It is an organization that issue guideline, benchmark, and support for professionals. So they're more people-oriented. They have certification examinations to elevate professionals in area of system audit, CISA, information security, like me, CISM, and governance, or IT governance, and information system risk. Okay, so they have at least 4 certifications right now that are very, very popular. A lot of people are eyeing for that. I think it's, again, an international certification. It also has something called COBIT, which I'll talk about a little bit about that. So ISECA developed COBIT. It's not a security framework. It's an IT governance framework. Okay. So the ISECA principle of information security basically has 3 areas: support the business, defend the business, and promote responsible security behavior. Okay, and this is the link that if you want to get, there's a poster that talk about all those 12 principles, and this is the overview. So if you don't remember anything, this is all you needed to remember. So under each area there are different principles that group around them. So I will look at each one of these areas individually. So the first one is supporting the business. As we mentioned all along, that information security exists because we want to be able to support the business. So the focus is on the business. We want to make sure that information security is integrated into essential business activities. Okay, so any key business activities need to have an information security component. So it's not after the fact. Okay, it has to be part of that, integrated. Deliver quality and value to stakeholders. So in order for the stakeholder to appreciate information security are not there to slow people down. Often, information security, we are perceived as obstacles, hurdles. We're slowing them down. So we want to be able to articulate that information security actually deliver value and meet the business requirement. So we needed to implement policies, training, and requirements or rules, and then we need to articulate that this is helping you to purchase a more secure system, and in turn will build trust among our customers, not to lose trust if we had a data breach. So you need to keep that in mind. I mean, the days of, okay, we are information security, whatever we say, you have to follow, period. The days of those days are gone. So we needed to be working with the stakeholders to make sure that they understand why we're doing that, understand it in a way that information security, all these requirements, rules, and regulations are, in fact, increasing your business value. Okay? Comply with relevant legal and regulatory requirements. Now, this is a given. You want to make sure that any statutory obligations are met, stakeholder expectations are managed, and civil or criminal penalties are avoided. Now, this is again another challenge for the stakeholder to appreciate. But if you tell them, if you don't do this, you will get fined, people will go to jail, okay, then they will listen. They understand there is a legal implication for not doing that. So an example would be if I encrypt data for all the sensitive information, and they say, well, encrypting data, decrypting data takes a lot of time. I just don't want to wait, okay? But if you tell them that if the non-encrypted data are being breached, people will be able to see them, and they realize that you don't encrypt the data when you have an opportunity to do so, then you'll get fined. Whoever makes the decision not to encrypt the data may go to jail as well, depending on what kind of data we're talking about here, right? So again, this is to make sure that the legal requirements are followed. Of course, even applying all the security measures and controls and so on, provide timely and accurate information on security performance. So this is something to do with what I talked about earlier. Some of the security technology indeed had, in the past, experience of slowdown for the business, like encryption, decryption. Not anymore. I think now it's much faster. Technology improved. But just imagine the business process that the stakeholders are used to, because it doesn't have any security implication, then they're more free to do this, do that, and have no, repercussion, not that they know of. And now you're applying all these business process, and they of course don't like it, right? But you want to make them so don't just by default saying that no, you have to live with this. I mean, right now, this is a compliance issue. You can't just settle for that. You can do better by improving the timeliness, responsiveness, and the accuracy. Oftentimes, remember the triangle that we have, the CIA, okay? The integrity, okay? Meaning the accuracy is part of that, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? Those are all just as important to the stakeholder. And so they need to kind of have an appreciation that, yeah, we can actually depend on these security requirements because the information I get from them is always accurate, always timely, okay? Evaluate current and future information threats. Okay, in order to support the business, one of the principles is to have a process constantly analyze, assessing emerging information security threats, so that informed, timely action to mitigate those risks can be taken. So, as part of the information security team, you need to have or dedicated some people or some time to monitor what's going on out there. Okay, you can't live in an ivory tower. Okay, you can just say this is what we do. I don't care about what happened outside. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. The threat, they call the threat landscape, changing every day. Okay, bad guys, come up with more creative routine. Technologies give them the edge, and the technology also gives you the edge. So you have to kind of follow that. So as an information security manager, you read up, you attend conferences, you hear what people say, and you constantly wanted to be kind of in the loop for development of threat and development of technology and the way to assessing risk. Okay, so it is an ongoing profession. It's not something that you study, you get certified, and that's it. You sit there and become stagnant. No, you can't. You lose your job very quickly. Things change so quickly. So if you're not in an information security profession, you might want to consider again whether you want to get into a field that constantly to be updating yourself and so on. But anyways, well, I think who doesn't, right? In any profession, even the doctors. I mean, they learn all the how our physiology react. It will be the same forever and forever. But the way to cure medicine, the way the medicine can cure a disease changes. And so the doctor will have to read up, otherwise they will be still prescribing medicine that will work 10 years ago that may have bad side effect, but they are better medication or better technology, right? So same thing, any professions are like that. It's an ever-changing world, and that's for some reason why that keep our job interesting, is that we got things to learn. And okay, so the sixth principle is promote continuous improvement in information security. This is closely tied into A5. When you are listening to what's going on out there from the bad guys and the good guys, you constantly try to remember improving your information security. With newer technology available, you want to adopt them where appropriate to make security better. When you know of the bad guy's tactic, you want to be able to plug that. You want to be able to remind your audience, your employees, that this is also available, so don't fall for that, and so on. And also, not to mention about reducing costs, improve efficiency, effectiveness, and provide a culture of constant improvement in security. Okay, so the second area, defending the business. And what does that mean? Adopt a risk-based approach. Okay, we talk about this many times, that we cannot do everything all the time. So there has to be a risk-based approach. The riskier the situation, But first we do. The less riskier the situation, we'll do those later. So we want to ensure the risks are treated in a consistent and effective manner. So we had a risk-based approach that we can rely on because we prioritize based on that. Protect classified information. So this is actually key. We talked about that in the first lesson that we have to have a mechanism to classify information. Okay? And once we know how to classify information, then we know how to protect these information against unauthorized individuals. Okay? So information that are not as sensitive, we don't have to worry about that much. Informations that are more sensitive, you want to be able to protect them, you want to be able to have process to make them harder to get at, and so on. Concentrate on critical business applications. Again, this is the same business rule of prioritizing your effort. We can't do everything all the time. So we want to be able to concentrate on business applications that are critical. We're talking about business application, information systems, okay? So because we had limited resources, limited people, limited time, so to prioritize information security resources by protecting business application where a security instance would have a greatest business impact. I'm not saying that we don't care about the less critical business applications, but we should devote most of our attention now in the critical business applications. Okay, in a lot of organizations, they already realize that because in organizations such as banks, right, they're huge. They have thousands of information system applications, and how can you apply the same kind of risk management tactics to all of them? So they come up with an idea of critical applications or crown jewel, and be able to identify if applications that have an implication of a loss or financial loss of more than $5 million, then it's classified as a crown jewel, something like that. So you want to be able to prioritize and focus all your effort into the critical applications. Not to say that we don't worry about the non-critical applications just later. Okay. By nature, the less critical application is less critical. When it's compromised, it's less critical as compared to the big one. So for all the attention and time and the resources that you have, you do the big one first. Develop system security. Okay, the best is to build a product that is good when it's out the gate, rather than fixing the problems down the road, right? That's just common sense. So making sure, so this is actually no different with what we talk about in ISO, right? We talk about system acquisition. If you buy from outside, system development and maintenance, making sure that securities are there. So same thing here. You want to build quality, cost-effective, and secure systems. So when it is implemented in production, it's already secure. All right. So you wanna spend time in that. The last one is promotion of responsible and secure behavior. So these talk about behavior of employees, contractors, third-party suppliers, and so on. Act in a professional and ethical manner. So all of us as an employee should be aware of what is expecting out of us. Okay? Making sure that information security related activities are performed in a reliable, responsible, and effective manner. So remember we talked about in the human resources, we talked about in the ISO standard, human resources security, we talked about people needed to sign an agreement, or they call employment contract, with the company acknowledging this is the ethical behavior, this is the professional behavior. Okay, not to divulge any information that you know just because you want to gossip about others and so on. So, you may be surprised, a lot of people still doing that. So you have to remind them. Okay. Another is foster a secure, positive culture. Just like I talk about a successful factor for implementing ISO 27002, I talk about an enterprise security awareness and training program, which I will have a separate lesson to talk about in the GRC course. But for us here, it's the same thing, right? We want to provide a positive security influence on the behavior of end users, not only to let them know there are acceptable use policies, security policies that govern their actions, okay? And also we want to constantly remind them through training, awareness, e-learning and whatnot to reduce the likelihood of breaching any unacceptable security behavior. Okay, and as such, it will in the end limit any potential impact. Okay, so as you can see, this 12 principle is actually not different with the ISO 27002. Okay, they just mention it in a way that are more relevant to a business environment. Okay, so either way, it's good. I mean, I just wanted to kind of give you another exposure to some other standards and principles from another organization. Okay, it's not a competing organization, um, but you can see that some of the subjects are being repeated in different standards. Then you know they are important. They're critical. Okay, so I want to spend one slide talk about other information security standards, just so that you know there are other ones that are special to your organization, maybe. All right. So I mentioned about PCI. So if your company deal with credit card, payment cards, you either collect them, a machine swipe them, or you are a merchant, right? Any merchants will process, credit cards and so on. That is applied to you. It's called PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. And for any merchants that process credit card, they have to be certified by PCI DSS. So there is a certifying process. So that's something that you may or you may not get into if you're involved in retail. I mentioned about COBIT, stands for Control Objective for Information and Related Technology. This is developed by ISECA, the organization that I mentioned in the previous slide. It's a good practice framework created by International Professional Organization ISECA for IT management and IT governance. This is not information security. It does mention a little bit about security, but it's talking about governance and IT. So if you are an IT guy, COBIT is something that you come across. Okay, and then we talk about IT management and so on. PIPEDA, I pronounce it PIPEDA, okay, or PIPEDA, okay. It's the federal or Canadian federal privacy law. It's called Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act, okay. So if you are not in healthcare, you are a federally company, so like a bank, okay, then you will be applicable by PIPEDA. If you are a private company and you are handling personal information, then in Ontario, because we don't have a separate Personal Information Protection Act, then if you're a private company in Ontario, PIPEDA applies to you as well. Okay, we will talk about these in the GRC course as well. There's another standard from the US heavily. It's called National Institute of Standard and Technology. Okay, it's by the US Department of Commerce. The US government rely on NIST heavily, and any company that do business with the government also are very familiar with NIST. I will talk about NIST, and actually I think I did in the second lesson. So NIST will be part of our discussions because they do offer very useful information, especially I think in risk management in the GRC course. Last but not least, it's called ITEL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library. Some of you may be familiar with that if you're in IT. They have examination that certify people in ITEL. Yeah, they talk about the different area in information technology management, and again, it does have information security in there. They have BCP and so on, but not heavily. But at least you know that even though as an IT professional, you are required to understand some level of security. Okay. Again, of course, this is not an exhaustive list. I just wanted to show you that apart from ISO, there are ISECA, there are also other more industrial specific standards that you may come across in your career path. But as I said, the lesson is for ISO 27002, so we talk about that. But all these others are bonuses for you, okay? Okay, so we're coming to the end now. So as I mentioned, I wanted to kind of give a tip of the day just to kind of, show you some more general security tips. Okay, so when you do browsing, when you're using a browsing, especially when you are browsing with sensitive information such as banking or shopping using your credit card, should be done on the device that belongs to you. Okay, I know that nowadays laptops are cheaper and you can do it on a phone and so on, and everybody has laptop almost. It's very seldom that you go to an internet cafe any longer, but still do. People still go there for games and stuff like that because the machines are more powerful and so on. So if you are doing browsings like that, do not use other people's machine or friends' machine for that matter. Don't, because they will save information on their browser that may be used by the people that subsequent using it. Okay. Sensitive browsing should only be done on a network that you trust. Now, this is a key. Often nowadays, we do a lot of computing in Starbucks or in open internet and so on. I don't know whether you remember, in all of those so-called public open Wi-Fi routers, sure, they will put a router there and attract you to go there and spend time, buy their coffee, buy their product and whatnot. Sure, it's a marketing approach. Acknowledge that. But usually they would ask you to acknowledge and accept some risk. You don't do this and you don't do that, and then whatever you do, they don't take responsibility and disclaimer. That's what it is, because everybody can be participated on that Wi-Fi router, and you never know. Within the coffee shop, there may be big bad guys sitting there waiting for people using the router to do transactions with sensitive information, and they'll sniff you. They'll just kind of get your packet. And so I wouldn't recommend you to do that in an open, untrusted network. Go home and do that at home. Any of these, or maybe, I don't know, in your company, is there a trusted network? Now, mind you though, your company can have a separate router or network for guests, which are unprotected. The work network, of course, is protected, but whether you can actually conduct business within the trusted network, I'm not sure. Some prohibit it, some don't, and some created a separate network for guests and for employee as well, and those are normally untrusted network. Okay, so also apart from the networking Wi-Fi, the last point is shoulder surfing. So beware, people walk behind you and kind of look over and what you type in as a password and so on. That's what we call shoulder surfing, or just people looking at you. That's why you probably heard of those privacy screens that you put something there that people that are more than 30 degrees won't be able to see that, and that might be useful if you're in public doing something sensitive and so on. So that's it. I think that's all I have for today. And if you have any questions, send me an email. And when you finish this, you should go to Blackboard and check out that quiz that I have for lesson 3. Okay, you need to pass all of them before you can complete. I get the result before it's considered complete. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.